What up, y'all? Welcome to the garage. I'm Nate. We are going to today make an extension cord for my welder that has this 50 amp plug on it that you might find on dryers or some such thing. My welder, I believe, is rated to take up to like maybe 40 or 45 amps when it's turned up to full tilt. I don't ever plan on using it that full tilt on a regular basis, at least. So what do we got here? We got us some 4-conductor 8-gauge cable. Now, we're not going to need 4 conductors. You see, this is 8-4, means 8-gauge, 4 conductors, type SOOW. So service rated, meaning 600 volt, which it also says on the line here, as opposed to SJ, which is service junior, which is 300 volt. Which would do just fine in this application because I'm only running 240 through it. 240, 241, whatever it takes.
Yeah, you're gonna make it all 220?
Yeah, 220, 221, whatever it takes.
And then the OOW. The first O is that this black jacket here, this is oil resistant. The second O is that these conductors are also wrapped in an oil resistant material. And then that W also means that it's water resistant. We get about 25 feet of this. Now, for that long of a run, and for 50 amps, I would technically like to see 6-gauge wire in such an application. But, again, I don't plan on running this at full tilt. Even if I do, it's going to be for short amounts of time. I've seen other people on welding channels make extension cords out of like 10-gauge. And they use it all the time. So, you know, I'm thinking I'm going to be fine for the home game thing here. If this were an official thing, I'd want at least 6-gauge. And what else we got? Let's see. Got my welder outlet project box here. What all's in here? We got us a plug, which is actually configurable for either 50 amp or 25 or 30 amp or whatever the hell it is. Found this outdoor rated outlet here, which, oh, there it is. We're going to do that dude right there. Let's get started, shall we? Now, this thing's nice, like I said, because it is able to work with either a 30 amp or a 50 amp. A couple different ways you can use this because the blades currently are in a 50 amp format, but blades can be turned sideways and switched around. And once you open these up, good Lord. Yeah, there's blades in here that you can remove and replace and turn sideways depending on the actual configuration or amperage you're trying to wire through the thing. Alright, so let's do that side first, shall we? Let's do the plug-in side first. Egads. The only pain in the ass about this is that all the blades like to fall out when it's not screwed together. But it is otherwise a pretty stout little setup here. So let's go ahead and loosen the strain relief clamp here. You know what? I'm going to get old Crappy out. Old Crappy! Slow but steady wins the race. Alright, we got this little thing here. Not sure we're going to be able to use this because that condom is a little small for that. You know what I'm saying? But this is going to come through here and hook up to all these blades. There's probably different ways of doing this, and I think I actually have the correct tool somewhere, but I'm just going to use this correct tool to strip back a little bit. Now, let's see here. If this is sticking through here like this, and one wire needs to reach up here, and one over here, I need about that much length. I need to clamp down on this part, so I don't want to strip it any further back than that right there. So we're going to turn that made into an aid, I think, or something like that. Now what you don't want to do is cut so deeply that you dig into the conductors, because, yeah, then you got exposed high voltage conductors like that. Well, fortunately, that's just the earth ground, so that's not going to matter so much. I'm going to be a little more careful. That's why it's service. That's why it's heavy duty. This thing will be dragged along the floor and whatever else. So, cut all this stuff in here. If you ever wonder what this crap is in here for, this is what makes this wire so nice and pliable, like so. Otherwise, oops. Otherwise, if you didn't have that in there, well, it'd be a lot harder to twist this thing around. It wouldn't be so pliable. Now, what I'm going to need to do is actually decide which of these I'm not going to use. I'm not going to use the red one, because normally for single phase, you've got the earth ground, which is green, and then you got the hot, which is the black one. And then if you're talking about 120 volts, you got a neutral, which is white, but we're talking about 240, so both of these are hot, basically. And between them, there'll be 240 volts. 120 volts between here and ground, 120 volts between here and ground, and 240 volts between these two lines. We're going to trim that one back. So just like so. And we don't really need to worry about taping it off or anything, because it's not going to be hooked up anywhere. Okay, so what we need to do now is strip a little bit of each of this wire so we can fit it through the terminal. So if you look at that, it's maybe 1/4 inch, maybe a little more of wire we need to strip off of each of these conductors. And if you're using something like this that doesn't have an 8-gauge setting on it, just make sure you're not gonna, strip it so far that you actually take too many of these little strands of copper with it. Otherwise, you're basically losing capacity. Alright, so now we've got 3 stripped whatevers. I'm going to go ahead and stuff this through like so. Now we need to make this match that plug. And this plug is currently this way. So we've got the ground up here on the top, and you got the wide blade over here and the narrow blade over here. That's the wide one. Needs to be turned out that way. That's the narrow one. Needs to be turned out that way. And here's the ground, which needs to be turned that way. Ooh, some coarse ass thread there. 1 thread per inch maybe. And I backed it out too far, so I'm dumb. Stuff that down in there so that it's between the blade and this loose piece. And try not to have any strands taking a vacation outside of the compound here, if you know what I mean. Like so, and then we'll tighten it down real nice and tight. Oh yeah. Now, what I don't know is if there's actually a convention for colors based on these two blades on a 50 amp circuit. Yeah. Remember earlier in the video when we were looking at that plug? Yep. So, looks like white is the narrow blade and black is the thick blade. Wow, this stuff is thick. And, well, that's just what you get when you play around with 8-gauge wire and the likes. Now, what I'm hoping to avoid is to actually avoid having that red contact actually make contact with any of these other ones, because I don't want to energize it if I'm not using it. And I'm going to do this because I'm tired of messing with that clamp. Like so. And here we go again. Really helps if you have a sharp blade, by the way. It also helps if you cut straight Finally. Away with ye. Cut this down a little bit more because I don't want it energized like I was saying like half an hour ago when I started stripping this. There. Now, where was I? This gets laid down in here. And these will get laid down over here. Now, normally the narrow blade on a 120 polarized plug is the line or hot. So I'm going to follow that convention because line and hot are usually a line comma slash hot is usually the black conductor. So I'm going to put the black conductor on the narrow plug. Narrow, whatever this thing is called. You know what I'm saying? I don't know that I do. Son of a bitch. Don't back it out so far that it falls out. Bet me that I'll do it on the next one too. Like so. We got one hanger there, so I'm gonna yeah, that's the struggle. The struggle is real. There we go. In there like swimwear. And give it a good crank. Ain't going nowhere. Where's that other mugger? Remember, don't back it out so far that it falls out of its thread. And tighten. So, now we assemble our plug. That one goes there. Oh, that one goes up there. It's going to take a little bit of work to jink these around so that the cables are bent in a way that they are able to all fit in here ever so nicely. Like so. So what we need to do is kind of rearrange things in here. And it doesn't really matter too much if this is curly cued up. Ideally, I suppose it'd be nice if these were cut more reasonably sized for where they're going, but you know what, it doesn't really matter that much. Again, this is not a professional installation, quite obviously. So, put that on there. Oops. Stuff these through here. Just a matter of making sure that this thing's in here far enough, so make sure there's a little bit of space over here that's going to actually grab on and let old crappy eat. Now they make these where they work with both Phillips head and straight edge for a reason, if you ask me, because as old-fashioned as straight screwdrivers are, or flat blade, or whatever the correct term for a regular flat screwdriver is, they tend to grip a little better on something that has a lot of torque on it. So whereas a Phillips might strip right the hell out, especially if you got a dinged up blade like mine, straight edge can usually get in there and grip a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and get in there with a straight edge and crank down that a little further than old Crappy was able to without dinging it up. Wha-cha! Yeah, baby. And you can clamp down on that as much as you want, I think. That ain't going nowhere. All it requires now is for that to be hinged back on there and to be clamped back down in there like so. Now I'm gonna have to find, damn it, where the other one of these flew to, because I knocked it all the way across the garage, I think. But put that in there. This doesn't really have to be that tight. It just needs to hold the case together. Yeah, so when these things went a-flying, I thought I saw something go down this hole, which is a blind hole. It does not go all the way through. I got a neodymium, as some would say here. Neodymium for the win. We got our other thing there. We got our other screw here. And away we go. And there we have 1/2 of our extension cord done. You see how it matches the layout of that puppy right there. Yeah, buddy. Now let's get the part that part's going to plug into, because this part will be plugged into the wall and it'll be extending. Hence the term extension cord. You know, as time goes on, I appreciate a clean work area. Anyway, first thing we is going to do, we're going to make a route into this box for this cable. And it's going to go into one of these big holes on the side here. You basically just have to either have strong fingers or a screwdriver, and you take these and you bend them back and forth and let metal fatigue take its course. Like so. Now you got something to stuff in the vending machine at work. Alright, so that being a 3/4 inch cutout, I got me a 3/4 inch cable connector, the kind that's gonna screw into the bottom of this box here and basically be the strain relief for this cord. So there we go. Man, what's the deal with that? Well, now it kind of loosened up. Not sure what I had there. Maybe I just re-threaded it by unscrewing it. This is going to go through here. Now, I'm trying to determine... Okay, so this needs to really be on the inside, I think, is what the general consensus is this little doodader here needs to be on the inside, and this can be on the outside. So this will go through here like this. And on the inside, you can see how this particular one is, it's got teeth on both sides, so it doesn't really matter which way it goes on. It should just kind of tighten itself in place. Now, I think what I'm going to need to do is turn this sideways so that when the threads are in, they're not going to interfere with this sitting flat on the ground. So I'm going to actually undo this and turn it around this way, and then attempt to get this to where it's actually straight. I think one of the old tricks about getting these all tightened up all nice is to actually, son of a beach, take a screwdriver and pound on these little wings in here a little bit. That's kind of what they're there for. Gets it all nice and tightened down if you tappy on those a little bit. Now, what you need to do is bring this on through. Whoo, boy, 3/4 inches. Almost not big enough for this big chubby. Ooh. Alright, so now what needs to happen? This needs to get wired into the back of this. And it looks like basically we have to come around this side to get the ground, and we have to come around the top to get the two lines. So let's just loosen these now. These are marked X and Y. See that? X being the thin one, Y being the thick one. So we'll call X hot and Y the other hot in this case. What needs to happen is, once again, we get to strip some of this back. So what we have here is the proper tool. A cable jacket stripper made in Germany, so you know it works right. Basically what you got here is this little dude with a spring-loaded thingamabobber here that holds the cable in place, and then you got in here this little blade. I'm probably going to have to adjust this because the last one I used it on was not quite so juicy as this one, but you can adjust the amount the blade comes in and out of this thing. I'm going to pick a spot right here. Basically that digs the blade into the jacket, and then you just go like this, like so, once or twice. Now this particular model lets you do this, which rotates that blade such, well, basically it's like this normally. Now it rotates the blade this way, and you can actually maybe what that does is, you can see there's a nice little slice right down the length of the jacket, and it allows you to peel it off nicely. Now why the hell I didn't use this and go find it before, I don't know. It's a lot easier than using that thing. I probably just wish to myself right now that I was using a different and more proper tool for the task at hand, but that would require going and finding scissors or some junk. Oh, come on. There we go. And once again, we're clipping back the red conductore. Watcha! What's next is that we stick all the wires in their homes. Go to your home. And chances are, I'm looking at this, eyeballing it, chances are I stripped them a little too much. I don't like to have any more showing than I really have to, so I'm gonna get pretty insistent about those wires getting smushed in there so that there's not any more copper showing than I need to. These don't have to be at 300 foot-pounds of torque or anything. Pound-feet, foot-pounds. I never remember which is the correct term. It never matters. Like so, nice and tight. Now, we just need to coerce this back through. What I'm going to do is tighten this into place before I tighten the clamp down here. Okay, the screws in the toughest plastic on the planet, apparently. You got a knife sitting right there, Date. Yeah, I know. Why use a knife when your own skin peeled off your fingers will do? What's nice about this plug right here is that it actually has this little bar running up here which grounds to this plate. This plate being screwed into here, we have more or less already grounded this thing to the ground connection. I'm getting a little frisky with the wires in here. They can take it to some extent. This is basically forcing your will upon great big thick copper wire. There we go. I think we got somewhere with that one. Ta-da! Now that's in place. Probably shorted out on everything else in there. Everything's looking good from there. This ain't going anywhere in further, so time to tighten her down. Yeah, see, it's bulging out a little bit there towards the thread on both sides. That's plenty tight. Now, what we want to do, I don't think I'm going to worry about the insulation here. I'm not really too worried about that. I'm going to put this in here. This apparently has to go just one way. Now, what's the difference between that and not that? Okay, so if you don't have this ring in place on this particular outlet, you got gaps that can lead down to the voltage. Now, this better freaking fit through the damn hole. This is going to work beautifully. Number 6 screws by 32 threads per inch. It'll work great. You mother. We are nearly able to plug in. And you see what I did here. I didn't tighten anything down all the way until I had everything at least started threading. Otherwise, you run into problems more times than not. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. An extension cord for a 50 amp 240 plug. We got this part here, we got this part here. Please keep in mind, I am not a professional electrician, welder, anything that you see on this channel, more or less. Not really. Take what you see here with a grain of salt.